probably just even a few months ago, and I've been following it. And I forget, I was telling Danny the other day on the track that I don't know if it was Scotty or Chris, but you guys did a video about going up to people at the store that are trying to sell you things and complimenting them. Yeah, I was like, that was the dopest thing I've ever heard. I was like, because I just thought about it, I was like, man, that's genius, because it's always such an uncomfortable position to be in, especially if you want to be nice to them. You don't want to be a dick, but and even better because you get to be super nice to them now and you don't have to be sold anything.
Dude, I was talking to the guy at the post office.
It's been a game changer.
Yeah.
What were you saying, Straight?
I went to the post office today, and I went to the library to get my library card today. Shout out to the library. And my phone wasn't working well. And I was like, I like AT&T, and I was like, oh yeah, I always go to Costco. I'm like, tell the guy I got AT&T everything, and it's the truth. I do, so I don't need to talk to them. So I just try to avoid them, But Scotty's got a better outlook. He's nicer to them.
That was a pro tip. I think you could sell that content.
I mean, it was kind of an accident when I first did it, and now I do it nearly every time. Like sometimes I'll just put my head down and do the like kind of be mean tactic, but when I look at them and they're like about to open their mouth with their like 10 pickup lines, I'm just like, dude, I like your shirt. And every time they're just like, dude, thanks. And then you're out of there. So I'm glad I made an impact on your Costco experience, Mark.
Have we?
So Mark Spewak, he's a St. Louis legend. Welcome to the pod, man. Dude, I have seen you out there, putting in your road work. Not only are you a coach, you're an avid runner with a pretty sweet running background, and I want to hear more about it. But I feel like recently you've been really putting in the miles. What are you up to these days? Are you hitting 90, 100-mile weeks?
Far from it. Those days are long gone.
I have seen you running more though. Really.
Yeah, did about a decade of 90 to 100-mile weeks, and
Wow.
It was a lot of time spent on the roads with Tony Hoken and those guys, and had a lot of fun doing that. It was a blast. And then I actually had a CSF leak, which is basically like a leak in your spinal cord. And so that kind of arised about 5 years ago, and dealt with that for the last several years. So I had to take about over a year off of running. And then I've kind of found a balance. Like I got a surgery for it and things have gotten better, but I'm not 100%. So I do about 4 days a week of running, and then I just dominate the cross training with the elliptical. The elliptical, I'm telling you, shout out to the Octane elliptical, which is the best brand out there. Smooth ride, feels good, and it really mimics the running motion. So that's, if you want to know where my 90, 100-mile weeks are, half of it is on the elliptical, and then the other half's on the roads.
Let's go.
Go
ahead, Chris.
I'm curious, what do you do on the elliptical? Do you do music, or like do you watch YouTube, or do you just grind it out? Nothing.
Podcasts, actually. So
Okay.
I'm excited to be adding you guys to the list now. So podcasts is a big thing. I would say that if you guys have cross-trained before, it's a very boring, thing. But if you have something that kind of keeps you energized, because like at first, like when I had to take time off, like it was just like I got through all those workouts just being pissed off. I just listened, to as much, hardcore rap as I could, and just like got fired up on there. But then you get to a point where you're like in the acceptance phase, and you like have gratitude, and it's just like DMX isn't pulling you through the whole hour and a half the same way that it was. So now you find podcasts and things like that. So the grind, like the dedication on there is still the same, but I'm not on there with anger anymore, which is probably a good thing. But I mean, as you guys know, anger can really propel some of those workouts.
Yeah, I just came off of a back injury. I had a sacral stress fracture, and
Oh gosh.
that's how I felt when I first got on the elliptical. I was like, man, like I'm supposed to run Chicago Marathon, like it's all ruined my plan, my master plan. But yeah, once I like the last 4 to 6 weeks of it, I was like, this isn't that bad. Watching YouTube, Netflix, new season of Wednesday came out. I was a happy guy, so turned it around.
Yeah, how'd you feel? Like, do you notice like coming back? I mean, obviously like the running portion's a little bit difficult, but do you notice like aerobically you maintained a lot?
Yeah. I feel like aerobically I'm good. Like my heart rate's still low on easy runs. I haven't tried any fast running yet. I'm in week 2, but like aerobically I feel good, but my legs are just like not used to the pounding because I took 2 months off. So
Yeah.
like really heavy and sore legs, but aerobically I feel pretty good. My heart rate's low and stuff. So I think I'll be all right. We'll see. We'll see. But dude, I want to know, Mark, when did you start running? What's like your running background before we dive into like what you're doing now?
Yeah, so I started right about like I'd say like most people like did the turkey trot as a little kid, but like could barely finish it. Just doing it, just messing around. And then middle school, I kind of got into it. My oldest brother was a pretty successful runner himself, and so he was kind of if you have older siblings, I'm sure some of you guys can relate to this, but it's like you see somebody that's older than you in your family doing something, you want to do it, but you want to do it better. So he really kind of motivated me and inspired me. I always make the joke about how like he would show up to like my basketball games and things like that in short shorts when he was a senior in high school, and I just like I was probably the only kid that would have thought like, oh, this is pretty cool. They wear short shorts, like most middle school boys are gonna be probably pretty freaked out by that, but to me that was a sign of speed and status, and especially with his group of friends. So that really motivated me, and I really got into it like I'd say 8th grade. Just loved it. I would go out over the summertime and just run as fast as I could, and then every week I would time myself. So I basically would have my mom drive me in the car different routes around town, and then we'd measure the distance, with the car, and then I'd know, okay, that's a mile from the house, that's a half mile, things like that. And so that was kind of fun because I didn't have to wear a watch, and then when I would wear it, I could test my time. So I think I started the summer off before 8th grade with like an 18-minute 2 mile, and by the end of the summer I was running like 11:30, and so it was like the time was dropping, which was super fun. What I learned very quickly the next year was you can't run as fast as you can for 4 miles. So I try to go run 4 miles and I just get blasted. And so I had a tough adjustment, I would say, to early high school running, because that mentality of balls to the wall did not really apply when the mileage went up.
Yeah, dude, there's nothing better than like the days when you didn't have the GPS watch yet and you didn't really worry about it. Like, yeah, I love that. That's how it was when I started running, too. Like no GPS watch, but then that first Garmin I got was that big TV on the wrist.
Oh yeah, the Forerunner, what 405 or something,
Yeah,
or 210? I forget what it was.
yeah, and yeah, that thing was a robot. It's crazy how watches have changed, but yeah, nothing better than the good old starting the running without the big watch on or the
You just
GPS watch.
ran by landmarks and like maybe you checked the time. At least I did before I went out and ran to the Pee Wee Valley Caboose in Kentucky. But out and back 2 miles, and that was it. Sometimes you brought the dog, sometimes you didn't.
Dude, we need running generations for people with watches, because I started running with like top tier GPS watches. I mean, I started running 4 years ago. So like my wife, she started running when the coach was like, just go. You got an hour. And I was like, how long did you run? She's like, I have no clue. It's just time.
The GPS that I think Chris you're referring to, like I had that early on in high school, and there weren't a lot of people, especially like on a cross country team, that had them, and it like wouldn't work if like you went into the woods, things like that. But it would take me like 10 minutes to load it, and so I would leave school sometimes early, like sneak out of class at the end of the day, and then get to the locker room, get my watch, and then go outside and try to load it so I wouldn't be late for the warm up for practice. That was like it stressed me out because that thing didn't load. So yeah, it was a lot more fun, I would say, when there was no GPS. But I mean, obviously it has great measurements and things that we can use for it. And if we didn't have that, we wouldn't have Strava, and then we wouldn't have really any friends. So I mean,
True.
Isn't that the truth?
Are you a St. Louis lifer? Did you go to high school and everything in St. Louis?
Yeah, I did. And then I left St. Louis for 1 year to run cross country and track at a school in New Jersey called Rider University. And so had kind of planned to go out there, was super pumped to do it. And I got redshirted my freshman year, and I really enjoyed partying, and I did not like to go to class. And I stayed up basically like all night, every night, like, just going. I mean, sometimes it wasn't even just partying. It was like you have all these people in your dorm and you have all these friends. Like my teammates would make fun of me because I'd be at the dining hall right after practice from 5 o'clock to 10 o'clock because you could see all your friends coming through. So I did not focus on studies enough, and I ended up failing out and, losing that opportunity. And so that was my one, my roommate always says I was allergic to New Jersey, but all my success kind of followed before and after. But cool part about like experiencing like New Jersey was like when I lived there, one of the perks of not going to class was I was up, like we'd go up to New York City a bunch. Like we went to
Nice.
Philly super close. So I saw Cardinals Phillies game in Philadelphia. We went to Flyers games. We went to New Jersey Devils games. They would do dollar hot dog nights. We did New York City, Madison Square, all these fun things that I wouldn't have get. I went to New Jersey Nets when they were in New Jersey at the time. So wouldn't have been able to experience that if I went to class, you know? So it all worked out.
Yeah, that's awesome. So
It sounds like you packed in 4 years of college in that one. So.
Yeah.
That's like I'm always surprised that I get like invited to teammates' weddings, like because it's like I'm like, dude, I wasn't here for long, and
you were the funnest guy on the team.
Yeah, you're the fun guy.
My roommate was so frustrated with me, and we just like I love him to death. Like he was there, like he was a big time recruit. You know, he in a cross country and track team, especially at a small Division I school, you're not going to get a lot of money, and he was on a full ride with us. And he worked his ass off and was just a great competitor. And he was the opposite. You know, he got to bed every night. Like he made really smart decisions. And he would say like he like when he was a sophomore, junior, and senior, he would run into people that knew me, and he's like, "How do you know him? He wasn't even here for more than a year." So I made the best of it. But yeah, I really enjoy St. Louis. If you guys, if people listening haven't been here, it's an amazing city.
Yep.
And before I was talking, Louisville is actually up there with one of my favorite cities to visit too. So I'm sure they're pretty similar when it comes to running and towns and such.
Yeah, they are. They're similar. The culture is a little bit different. I'd say like there's one giant pack of that. It's like a run club that I guess kind of splinters off into like subgroups, but it's mostly like one giant run club in Louisville. Whereas I feel like in St. Louis, the scene is a little bit more like Spewak. Spewak Racing is definitely like kind of the big coaching organization. And then you have like little teams of like kind of pockets of talent. Like, I'd say the Forest Park guys that I'm running with all the time, and, running niche and all these other kind of like the more social clubs like Dogtown. Like I would say that Corf Edge in Louisville kind of is all of those in one. So yeah, running scene's a little bit different. How would you describe the St. Louis running scene?
Yeah, I mean, I describe St. Louis running scene very similar to someone who would describe St. Louis probably. It's a very, like, I think the hardest part, like the most conflicting thing about St. Louis is like, love it here. I don't want to go anywhere. It's an amazing town. But if you're a transplant, it's really difficult. I don't know how your experience was for you, Danny, but it's difficult to break in because there's so many people here that went to high school together and they're friends for life. And so people are very territorial in St. Louis, which is kind of funny because like we're one of those cities where like I look at like Chicago, like if somebody like it makes more sense to have neighborhood run clubs in Chicago because you're not really going to want to travel 30 minutes, to go to, you're not going to want to leave the suburbs to go into the city for a run. Like I get those things, but in St. Louis, you get your car, you can be anywhere in 15 minutes, really. Like even people out in the county can get to the city. And so I would say it's very like territorial in that sense, but I also think it's really good in a lot of ways because it gives tons of options for a lot of different people. If you're single and you're in your 20s and, running maybe was important to you at one point in life, or you're just like want to be social and have fun, I think those clubs are amazing. And you don't have to get kind of forced into signing up for like club like ours. You can actually just go run for fun, which I think is cool. Where I would wonder like in other cities, if like it's more serious, that those folks would even be doing it as consistently. So we always kind of say like, if somebody's out there running, it's a great thing. And it's awesome that there's so many clubs and people are. But honestly, like when I was running competitively, there was not a lot going on in town. So it's crazy to see like the difference that it is now, which is really cool. I mean, obviously, as you guys know, the boom of running really surged after COVID. And it's cool to kind of see, just the people that have stuck with it and the organizations that come out of it. Danny, do you ever dabble with any of the other clubs outside of running with the Forest Track?
Yeah, I was running with the Big River Monday Night Group. There's a Big River store up the street from me here in South City. And
that's fun.
Yeah, hit a double today. Got to share a whole 400 meters with them, and then
nice
off to go home. So, but it's good to see people. Yeah,
dude, Danny, do you ever run with the East St. Louis Run Club?
No, that's funny that they call it like, so there's this neighborhood, St. Louis Hills, near me, and they call like my little pocket East St. Louis Hills.
East St.
So
Louis
it's like-
Hills.
yeah, it's like Princeton Heights. It's like
I mean, East
Not
St.
the
Louis
best.
got some of the best athletes come out of our
Yeah.
area, and then
Oh,
Jackie Joyner Kersey, probably arguably the most successful female athlete of all time coming there. So it's interesting. We've got some really like under the radar people in the area that are just like absolute studs. Whether it's from track and field or cross country track, and then obviously all sports, which is cool. Actually, East St. Louis is fun fact. Their football team is so good.
yeah.
They've got people who are moving to East St. Louis to play on their team,
No
or
way.
just getting fake addresses there so they can go to that school.
No
They are a
way.
powerhouse.
It's absolutely a
Really?
recruiting hotbed.
Yeah,
in
they're
St. Louis.
football
Yeah.
team.
Texas football type good.
That is,
Yeah.
essentially that's kind of, I mean, obviously it's not Texas, whatever the case is, but they are the best in Illinois. And Illinois, as you guys know, is a really competitive state with the Chicago area and things like that. So East St. Louis football, they're no joke.
Oh yeah, East St. Louis is not in Missouri, right?
Yeah, they're across the river there.
That
So
makes no sense.
yeah.
On Apple Maps, doesn't it say East St. Louis on it too?
Yeah, it probably does. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's funny because like if you're from St. Louis, like and then you're the state of Missouri, like you're so used to going over river to cross states, and then like even like when you drive like over into Ohio and into Kentucky, you have that experience. But I guess you guys would have that experience, right? Going Kentucky to Ohio. I didn't realize like when I remember the first time I went to Kansas City and we crossed over into Kansas and there was no water there, and I was like, wait, how are we in a new state with no water? That doesn't make any sense.
Yep. Yeah, I
Makes
got
no sense.
I got family there.
I think Missouri should just like take over Kansas. We should just absorb Kansas
Agreed.
into us.
It would be. I always say Kansas City is a suburb of St. Louis. That's what I tell people.
Dude,
Agreed.
Dude, my last comment on gas in St. Louis and the difference between Louisville. I wish Louisville had a little Italy like St. Louis does. That sandwich place that you took us to, Danny, unbelievable. We don't have anything like that here.
Thanks, dude. Yeah, I took him to Joya's Deli when they came to visit last summer.
Smart.
Yeah.
Dude,
in the hill.
you also took us to Clementine's.
Oh yeah, Clementine's, great spot, right down the road from you, Danny. Yeah, that's a good spot. Yeah, there's a lot of great food in this city. I'll have to hit you guys up for good food recommendations when I'm in Louisville this spring because I'm sure we like I said, like we went to the big party street, which was really fun. And then we got my wife and I got Thai food somewhere, but it was really good Thai food in town.
Simply Thai, maybe.
Yeah, so it was highly rated, things like that. So yeah, like I said, like Louisville to me, what I love like the southern aspect of Louisville. Like I dig that, and St. Louis kind of has it a little bit. And now Mizzou's in the SEC, we can kind of fake it a little bit, but
Dude, Mark,
Hey.
I want oh, go ahead, Scotty.
Well, I was wondering if I could rip Rapids out of the way so then we can dive into this man's actual story.
Let's do it, bro.
As much as I love a history lesson with St. Louis.
Yeah, I love talking St. Louis. Huge fan.
All right, Mark. How did you pronounce your last name again? Spewak?
Spewak.
Spewak, like speed walk.
Yes, very similar to speed walking.
That's good.
Well, Mr. Spewak, this segment is called Rapid Fires. We normally do it in the beginning, but I was extremely unprepared. I was putting my kids to bed late. I ask you questions and you answer them without elaborating. That's your one rule. And in order to continue on this podcast, you're forced to do this as a new guest of the pod. First and last question are always the same. First question. Okay. What is your favorite flavor of ice cream?
Cookies and cream.
What is your favorite workout to give people that will absolutely bring everyone doing it to their knees?
One that I really enjoy is a 5K specific workout, and you basically alternate 400s and Ks. You do get a little bit of recovery in between each, but your 400 would be like it just depends on what we're training for, but would be at like 3K pace. And then the Ks will be at 5K pace. And that's pretty tough for people.
How many?
Just depends on the athlete. So like would probably shoot for like if a guy's running or gal's running, 80 plus miles a week, they're going to do probably 4 to 6 of those individual reps between the 4s and the Ks.
Sounds really hard.
Yeah, it's not.
Chips and queso or chips and salsa?
Chips and salsa.
What is your favorite road shoe?
Ooh, I don't want to hurt any brands' feelings here. We love all brands equally, but if I had to choose something right now, I'd probably go with that Brooks Hyperion Max.
Nice. Great choice.
Oh, interesting.
Great choice.
Okay.
Didn't see that coming, not going to lie.
Yeah.
Mark. Do you think alcohol is a strict no-go for serious distance runners?
Just depends on how you are, I think, using alcohol would be my answer.
All right.
Great answer.
That'll work.
Great answer.
What is the best TV show you've watched in the past year?
Ooh, I gotta say, I'll go with Succession.
I've heard of that. I need to watch that.
Somebody recommended that to me, actually. Maybe I'll watch it. I need a TV show. I always ask that question to guests when I'm needing a TV show, hoping that you'll give me the answer. What's your favorite coaching memory? First one that comes to your head. It won't hurt anybody's feelings, I promise.
Yeah, I would say, one of my all-time favorite memories honestly comes with somebody that it wasn't the big Boston moment. It wasn't the big marathon moment. It was a guy, he had been recently divorced, and the local organization Go St. Louis was sponsoring him. Basically, they paid me to coach him for their Go St. Louis 5K. It was a start to 5K situation. And so, he lost a lot of weight, and they also hired me to not just coach him, but also run the workouts with him. So I was able to do sessions with him, and it just was an awesome bonding experience. And then to see him succeed in that 5K, and then now you see him at every Go St. Louis event, he's at every one of them. And so to see his life was totally impacted by it, I gotta say that's probably my favorite.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was looking for. I love that. Do you believe in caffeine for running a race?
I think, yeah, goes back to just depends on the person.
What about for training?
I'd say depends on person, same way, because I'm somebody that does not do caffeine at all. So no go for me. But for people that do it, go for it.
Respect. Do you ever think about cutting your grass with only scissors?
That's probably a really good idea if you're looking for an additional workout. But I do enough strength training. I feel now that and other cross training, I don't need to spend that much time cutting the grass.
I don't know why, but I always think about how long it's going to take me to cut my grass with scissors. If I could get it done in a day, if I really hustled. But
yeah, 24 hours, you can do anything.
Yeah, for sure, dude. If you can run 100 miles in 24 hours, you can cut your grass with scissors. For
Scotty,
sure.
Scotty, would you crawl or would you lean down with your back hunched and walk?
Oh, dude, I'd be laying down. I'd be
maybe laying down. Okay.
Yeah, dude. I'd be all the way down in there. What's your last meal before death? Being put to death. Sorry.
Yeah.
Death row.
Yeah, it would probably be something I never have very often, which would be really solid, like McDonald's type chicken nuggets, but way better, the most premium chicken nugget you could have with the crispiest fries and a really solid milkshake.
Love
dude,
that answer.
Good choice.
That is such a good answer because I'm thinking okay, I'm gonna get the nicest steak with shrimp and stuff that you wouldn't order at a restaurant.
Dude, yeah,
dude, that's such a good idea because I never eat that because it's so bad for you.
For a while, especially when I was running 100 miles a week, I was frequently at the McDonald's drive-thru getting those McNuggets.
Really?
That was definitely a Sunday night blast.
That's awesome.
Dude, you were the party. For sure. 25 half-course shots for $10 million. You make none, you go to prison for 10 years. Are you taking the shots?
Yeah, you got to. Because I feel if you get to prison, it's not, you can still practice in prison. You can shoot baskets, there, I imagine. So
okay, let's
it.
double down. You ready? So you go to prison for 10 years and you get out and they say, hey, Mark, we'll go double or nothing. You can get 20 million for 25 more shots or 20 more years in prison. Are you taking the shots?
You're taking it every time. Even if I can't make it, you guys take it. You take an opportunity when it's presented to you.
Yeah. I respect that.
That's
You
fun.
also miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Last
True.
time I checked.
True.
2 more questions. What is the best restaurant for post long run fuel in St. Louis?
Whew.
In your
Best
humble
restaurant.
opinion.
Post full. Yeah, I would actually like one place I'm really digging right now is High Point, and they have a location inside of Four Hands Brewing downtown, and that's like a great way to like just dominate some food and get a lot of beers.
Such
It's
a
like a
big
burger shake place. It's super good.
Love that. Now I want to go there. Danny, will you take me there?
Yeah, if you play your cards right. If you behave.
Okay. Last question. We ask everybody this question. Why do you run? You're allowed to elaborate if you would like.
Yeah, I would say at this point right now, it's like I just, I've my whole life's ingrained in the sport of running. So I definitely, I don't want to say that I don't enjoy it, but like part of it is social, especially at this phase of the game. And another big piece for me, like outside of just like the health and wellness pieces that we all get from it, is that as a coach, I just, I don't know if I could do it. I don't know if I could coach and be as I don't even know if it's about passion. It's about like I don't ever want to be like I don't want like somebody to look at me and be like, "Oh, well, you couldn't do that workout. You wouldn't even understand what that means." Like I have a huge philosophy, like especially as a coach, you can't criticize somebody's effort in the sport unless you've actually done it or are doing it.
Yep.
And what I learned in a year off from running is you lose a lot of that kind of mental relationship with the sport because you're not doing it consistently. So I could see the more time you leave. So part of it is, yeah, I just want to kind of be sharp and able to coach better.
Yeah. Everybody respects the coach that's fit and fast versus the 350-pound coach telling you to do 4 by K and 400, that and you're like, bro, you can't even do that.
Well, it's great. I mean, Jack Daniels, rest in peace. Like he was, not a runner, and obviously respect the hell out of him. And me personally, like I respect so many coaches that, don't have like the same running background. But yeah, I mean, my coach, Jason Holroyd, for a long time, he ran side by side with us. I mean, he's in his 40s running in the 220s in a marathon, and he grinded it out with us every week. So yeah, part of it, I think, just kind of comes from that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's another St. Louis name. I want to talk about the timeline of Mark, where you were invited to not come back to Rider College, and then what happened after that? Did you come back to St. Louis and finish out college, or did you? What happened next?
Yeah, so I just was very fortunate that like when I was in high school, I was a bit like a big runner nerd. So, was in the running scene, outside of just like cross country, track and field, and was huge. My coworkers would always say at Big River, I bled the Big River blue. Big River Running Company is kind of the big store here in St. Louis, and was huge, especially when I was in high school. And so they knew I had some friends that worked there, and actually my coach's husband worked there. He was the general manager, and so they knew that my situation, and that was kind of like my saving point for me to be able to get the opportunity to go work for them. So when I came back to St. Louis, I enrolled in community college and had the opportunity to work at Big River, which super fun job, especially like when you're 19 years old and you get to sell running shoes, talk about running all day, and just be a part of that community. So that's kind of what I got into. And during those years, I really just dabbled with everything. So like I'd help out with their events and, be a part of their like speed work sessions that they'd put on. And, just try to like, my philosophy was always like, go do the things that you're not being paid to do because it's experience and it's opportunity to meet people. And so I just met so many people through their community because they've got such a big base here in St. Louis and at the time nationwide too. And so that was just, I looked at it as like this kind of a secondary school. So I was going to school and then working at Big River, and ended up putting on charity running events myself. That kind of came from just being inspired from what they were doing and kind of, and also just building that base of people that I was able to meet through there. So started doing that. I had an opportunity to go work for an outdoors company called Orange Mud. I'd worked there did some sales with them, and then did like conventions, like would work trade shows, and had that opportunity because I did a video to sell one of their products at Big River, and they called me and they like didn't have any employees. And because we were one of their retailers that stocked their stuff, they called the store and was like, hey, can that guy come to Salt Lake City, come work for me for a weekend at the outdoor convention. And it was like just total coincidence. I was already going to Salt Lake City that entire week, and I was going out there because my best friend was moving there. So
No way.
just timing of everything. So just all this to be said, like during this time I was going to school, putting events on, working sales, doing Big River, doing it all, just try to maximize it, and then obviously run too.
When did you start Spewak coaching?
Yeah, so I started Spewak training in 2015. So we celebrate our 10th birthday in November. So yes,
Congrats.
Pumped about that. Yeah, it really kind of started because I was coincidentally during that time as well as coaching high school cross country and track and field at Ladue. And then I also coached their youth programs at Ladue and Clayton. And so I was doing that, and there was just people who would always I would say reach out because they knew you were a coach. Like they'd be like, hey, I'm doing a marathon. Can you help me? Or at Big River, somebody would come into the store and say, can you help me with figuring out what I need to do? And so I ended up getting into the coaching business. Basically, I didn't want to do it as a job. I didn't really think that was a legitimate job. I was like, there's no way I'm going to do this. But I was helping some people for free. And one of the guys, his name is Mike Miller. I was working with him, and he was training for the Chicago Marathon. He just kept pushing me. He was a small business owner himself. And he was like, dude, you can do this. This could be a career for you. And I was like, hey, if the 5 people I'm working with do okay in their race in the fall, I'll, consider doing this. And if not, we'll move on to something different. And those 5 people did really well, and he convinced me to do it. And I didn't want to name it after my last name, actually. But he was like, you have to put your last name on it. Which nowadays I'm like, I would never have done that. But it's funny now. It's I don't even think about it. I was talking to my dad a year ago. I was like, Dad, I don't even see the last name as a last name anymore. I see it as a brand. And he's like, what the hell is wrong with you? So,
I feel you. I feel you on a personal level.
Okay. Yeah. So you have that experience. You probably can understand.
Yes.
So you just, you put yourself out there and things like that. So yeah, the coaching business really just kind of evolved from doing that. And, in 10 years, it's grown a lot. We started off with myself and 2 coaches that worked with me. And now we have a staff of 10 coaches and myself. So we work with, honestly, with the coaching business, a lot of people we work with are not in St. Louis. It's kind of nationwide. So that's where we're at with things. And then probably what confuses most people is we have a separate organization called Spewak Racing that Danny knows about here in St. Louis. And that started in 2021. And so during COVID, we had, I was trying to just figure out ways to keep my athletes motivated and just try to get them to keep training and to be consistent. And I also knew there's no races, I don't have a job. So we had to figure something out. And so I put on a bunch of different virtual running events for our clients. And so we just do fun shit. We did a donut mile. We did, we did costume runs, Christmas in July, all this stuff that only worked obviously during COVID, but it kept and we did time trials and things like that. And people were on teams so they could compete against each other, virtually, and did Strava art contests, people in San Francisco drawing crazy things like Batman. So we did all this stuff, and we had a lot of people that wanted to be a part of it, but weren't clients. And so we just kind of decided, you know what, we'll bring those people in. They could do it with us. It keeps them motivated, obviously, especially during COVID. People didn't have anything to race, train for. And we also raised close to $20,000 for different charities during that time. And so what we really realized was, once people felt comfortable to kind of come back to society and do running events again, we felt like there was going to be a big craving for running and community. And then we just felt like, man, it'd be so great to be accessible to people that don't necessarily want coaching, but then also have this charitable component to it. So Spewak Racing turned into basically the charitable leg of Spewak Training. And so it's a membership-based organization. So you join it, it's $100 a year. We sponsor kids cross-country leagues in the city. Right now we're sponsoring a cross-country and track team at Confluence Prep Academy in downtown St. Louis. We bought their uniforms, we buy their shoes. We do cleanups, things like that. And so when you're part of the team, we give back. We've raised $24,000 for different organizations through events that we put on. So much of the club is about that. And then the second piece is the competitive side. So instead of just joining a group and not having structure, our goal is to like have a Wednesday workout and have other stuff to kind of keep people motivated. So that's how that's grown. And that team now, we have over 200 members, and it's it's really a big machine, comparative to what what it was when it started.
So is that 200 members on the whole thing, the training and the racing side, or just the racing, or
just
how
the
many
racing?
total?
Yeah, we have probably, we've worked with over 500 clients, but at probably any given time, we're probably our coaching staff and things like that, we're working with probably 150 to 200 people.
Nice.
And then we have this additional set of people that's the 200 plus, and that's just the racing side of things.
Wow, dude, that's awesome. That's inspiring for us. That I just we were just talking about. I went full time today, so that's inspiring and something to strive towards. It's cool to see you doing that full time, and makes me feel good. Makes me feel good about
That's excellent. What I'm curious. All right. So we have a lot of mutual friends, Mark, and we run together Forest Park in the mornings, and we run with a lot of the same people. So I put a group text out to some familiar names, Marshall, Fuzner, Hilken, and I was like, all right, we are having the Mark Spewak on the podcast tonight, and what questions do you want to ask him? The only rule, no rules. So do you want to get some of these questions, Mark?
Yeah, I would love that.
Hit it.
All right. Do you want to know who's asking what question, or?
Let me guess.
Okay. All right. We'll start with this one. What's your favorite variety of Oreo?
That would probably be a Marshall question. I will say my favorite variety is one of their special ones that they did years ago, and it was it's a light cookie, but it has cookie dough is the middle. Love that one.
Dang, it sounds awesome.
Whoa.
Do they not make that anymore?
I don't know if they brought it back. Like, I think a few years ago they brought it back with the dark cookie. I don't know. It's like one of those special ones.
Fuzner asked that question.
Wow.
Why?
That's appropriate.
Why would he ask that question? I'm curious. What's up with
He knows
Oreo?
he's an Oreo guy.
He might try to be doing some research, to have some things to dig up on me.
That checks out.
Dude,
Okay.
real quick,
Go ahead.
hot take. One of the best ice cream flavors is Bluebell ice cream. Not a huge fan of Bluebell, but Bluebell ice cream makes a Oreo cookie dough. It's the only company that I found that does that,
Whoa.
and it's phenomenal. You should try it.
Okay, thanks for the tip on that. I'll have to check that out.
But you got to buy a freaking half gallon, and ain't nobody trying to have a half gallon of ice cream because I just ate an entire pint on this podcast.
But a pint, that's just a light snack right there.
That's an appetizer, baby.
I doubled like Danny today, so I can
You deserve it, man. Have as
All
much ice
right.
cream as you need.
You said you have 10 coaches. I don't think this person knew that when they asked this, but who are your current coaches and what are their strengths? Maybe you could just do 3 of them or something. You don't have to
Okay. So one that you guys will all probably know is Julia Griffey.
Mhm.
And she was
Really?
very phenomenal runner, and just overall amazing person. But I said this to her. We've been really good friends since we started running together, probably like 2014 that we started running together. But I would say the thing that I admire most about Julia, especially as a person, as a coach, she is so level of detail to caring about the individual and how to adapt, and doesn't bring that oh, I'm the Olympic trials runner to the table and hey, I'm this I'm better than you mentality. She's so relatable as a human.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that comes from the fact that she didn't start really competitive running until she was later on past college, 5th year of college actually. And so that's, I think I would say jumbling on that answer, with Julia, just really cares about the person, really cares about the individual, and trying to help them succeed, which I love so much about that, and so relatable for her background. I'll go with Coach Jill Fickling. She's another one on our staff, and she's she's one of those athletes who especially she got into running later in life, and she's done a ton of Chicago marathons, at Boston a million times, and all these different things, and she's just got such a she's the ultimate cheerleader type of person, and I think that that's such a strength for her because she can really find the way to encourage everybody. She does such a good job being able to relate with people in that sense, and she's just she's so experienced as a runner that, you know, you're going to learn something from her and her experiences. And there's a lot to be said for somebody that's run that, you know, so many marathons. You know, they know everything, you know, when it comes to what to do, what not to do. So, and she's still going for it. She's over 60 years old, and she's still, you know, she's going to do Houston Marathon. So she's relatable in that sense and that aspect
We'll
of
be
it.
there.
Love it. Yeah, we're excited for it. And then, I would say, you know, Coach, who I don't want to do any of my coaches justice. I'm actually going to use our dietitian really fast, Diane Johnson, because Diane, formerly Diane Robeson, All-American at Arkansas. She was basically she was the best runner in Missouri. And then there was a phenomenal runner named Emily Sisson who moved to her high school, and she was a junior. So she was a state champion. And also, like, this never happens. You are the state champion. You are the big dog. And then Emily Sisson moves to your high school. And that changed everything. And so they were dominating forces. But Diane is so interesting because, like, she's her background, like, state champion, you know, All-American in Arkansas. But then she went on to work for the U.S. Olympic team, work for Kansas City Sporting as their dietitian. And she never really pursued the competitive running outside of college, but she's pursued, like, the dietetics in sports and things like that. And so she is just so inspiring to her athletes because of so many different backgrounds. And she's just so good with working with everybody, especially the high school kids that I send her way. Just such an inspiration. I mean, as all of us know, like, when you're in high school and you know somebody's PRs, things like that, that impresses you, but just does an amazing job making it about you. Just like, I mean, I think that's the strength of our coaches, is like, that's our philosophy, is like, this is not about us. This is about their experience and being able to be selfless and humble in that sense. And so Diane's just, incredible in that regard. And she came on board pretty early in Spewak training. So she's really been a part of our development and everything. I'm very grateful for her.
Guys,
That's awesome.
I think I think she's cousins with Sean Robinson, who we know from Louisville. You guys know him, Scotty?
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
Wait, seriously?
Yeah, a bunch of his family's like from that area. Yeah, and he's always told me he had a cousin that, like, was super good at running in college. I'm pretty sure that's her.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think that tracks. I'll have to ask her.
Yeah. I was just with him on.
He's an Iron Man guy.
Yeah,
guy.
Nice. I'm sure she gives him tips and things like that if they stay connected.
Yeah, that's a good cousin to have right there.
Oh yeah,
Not bad.
What's the Spewak coaching philosophy? I know you have 10 coaches, so it has to vary a little bit between coaches. But I'm curious, kind of what the overarching philosophy for your org is. In terms of like X's and O's.
Yeah,
coaching.
so much for us is like not having a system, in the sense that, like, we, you know, like, and this isn't a knock on any other coaching program. Like, some coaching programs are just going to be more systematic, where they're going to kind of follow, hey, this is what all of our coaches are going to deliver for you. You know, whether that's kind of AI generated or it's something through their own philosophy, and it works really well for people. But for us, like, one thing is, like, I hire coaches who I know are great coaches and know the X's and O's, and that's really important. But the most important thing to me is, like, a coach that can relate to an athlete and understand how to build a schedule for that person. Like, you can know everything you want to know about running, but if you can't comprehend the fact that this athlete every single training cycle gets injured running more than 5 days a week on land, and you do not know how to adapt to that athlete, and you just kind of turn that person away, you know, then to me, like, you've kind of lost as a coach, because we have so many athletes, especially for me, like, trial and error. I've coached people. One woman specifically, I helped her get better in the marathon for 5 years straight, and she got better and better every year. But, like, we didn't have injuries. We just kept having reoccurring, like, nagging issues that would pop up. So we'd make all this progress, but then also at the same time, we'd have to, like, take a step back and have these setbacks. And so finally we just realized, like, you know what, like, let's start cross training more. Let's start thinking kind of outside the box and finding ways to develop you still as a runner and keep you competitive, but keep you healthy. Because if we can keep you healthy, you might actually train more than you are training, because year round, you're not getting as much because you have to take time off. And she jumped like 17 minutes in the marathon the next time she ran a marathon, running 4 days a week, you know? And so, not that I'm going to go on here and say, like, oh, every runner needs to be running 4 days a week and things like that. But my point is, like, you need to be able to understand, especially as a coach, like, yeah, a top runner needs to run, like, you know, to be really successful, 80 plus miles a week. And that's kind of I mean, you see that on the collegiate level, you see that on the professional level, but there are going to be those exceptions, and you need to be able to know how to coach that person. And then outside of that is, like, if you can you can coach elite athletes all day long, but there's not many that are looking for like the coaching services that we have. They typically have like a group, or they have something else that they have going. A lot of people that are finding us are going to be that person like who's like kind of that scrappy, like, Boston Marathon athletic person, like who is maybe 10 minutes off the barrier, and you get them and you can really develop them.
Yep.
And so you need to understand, like, especially as a coach, like, how are you going to do it and how do you get them to buy in? Because a lot of times I think that like what turns the everyday person off is that they think it's going to be this like horrible, huge commitment. And so maybe they buy into it for a little bit of time, but they just get burned out. Where like my philosophy and our coach's philosophy is like, give them a little bit of a taste, have them have success, and then they're going to be asking for more the next training cycle, and then they're going to want to, they're going to be able to wrap their head around being able to do more. But if you just go from the gun, like with all these rules, like Scotty, you brought up alcohol, and that's one thing. Like I actually had a woman ask me the other day about this. She was super worried about like, hey, if I join your coaching program, like, are you going to make me stop drinking? And I'm like, no, we're not going to do that. Like,
that's a big ask in St. Louis, by the way.
Yeah. I'm going to be honest with you. Like, if you're drinking before workouts and long runs and you're having shit performances and you don't know, you don't understand why, like, I'm going to probably suggest like, hey, like, you might want to monitor that. But like having these like absolute rules and things like that for something that's our hobby, I think we try to take that away. But really, like, if you think about like the ultimate philosophy of Spewak training that all of our coaches are on board with that go beyond the X's and O's is individualized coaching for the everyday person. So we're the added bonus to your life, not the added stress. As cliche as that sounds, that's the philosophy I want everybody to go with. And so if somebody calls us, and they want coaching and they say, hey, like, it's really important to me that on Saturdays, I do not run long. I need to be with my family that day. It's really important for me. We're not going to put a long run on that Saturday. And, we're going to find other ways to get them that training. Let's say they don't really give us much of an option during the week to give us to do speed work, and then they only give us one day over the weekend to do a long run. We got to be creative and figure out, okay, well, we can do some of those workouts in the long runs, and maybe, we're, instead of doing intervals, in the Tuesday, speed session or Wednesday speed session, we're just going to, we're going to find ways to get them, hill repeats in the middle or speed work, just whatever we can to adapt to that person. So that's the biggest thing, is like, make the best of each person's situation, try to be able to give them the resources and understanding of like, hey, this is going to make you better. But at the same time, don't have somebody sacrifice what is important in life, because ultimately at the end of the day, there's bigger things in the sport.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's something in running you used to believe as a coach that you no longer believe or practice?
Oh yeah, dude, I fucked up early on, because like I was running 100 miles a week when I started coaching. And so I kind of had that like just that mindset, like, if you don't run 100 miles a week, and if you're training for a marathon and you don't run 20-mile long runs multiple times, like, you're not going to be prepared. And there's a woman who I coached who I still feel bad about this to this day, because I didn't understand early on coaching that like somebody running 11-minute miles is out there for an 18-mile long run much longer than somebody running 6-7-minute miles.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand that philosophy like from the gun, because I just kind of felt everything had to be done in miles. And so I coached this woman, and she had a lot of success. She had some PRs, but she had like a kind of a career-ending injury. I don't know if it's one of those things, like, it's like at the time was really bad, and I don't know if like she just like stopped running and will never come back to it. But it was enough at the time that like she was done running, and she was so gracious. Like, she never blamed me like as a coach or anything. But I look back on it and I'm like, half the reason why she, probably had the injuries that she had, even though we had success, was the fact that I was marching her out on Wednesdays and she runs 11-minute miles. I'm making her do 10 miles on a Wednesday because I wanted a medium long run. And then on the weekends, I wanted to make sure that she got the long runs in. And I really felt like she needed a 20-mile long run before a race and a bunch of 16s to 18s. And now I've completely changed in the sense that, I go off time and I have a way better understanding of people's form and how they're going to respond to different things. And so ultimately, like that happening and then me learning from that, like, has made other athletes much better. But at the same time, you still feel bad because you realize like that person, ultimately didn't have a positive experience and it could have probably been prevented. Now, another thing I would say is like, I was pretty stubborn with strength training early on. And did not do it enough. And now I'm a huge believer in the strength training side of things. And that's something that I'm really on, especially the younger guys I coach. And so that's another piece too, is like really buying into that and understanding that.
Dude, how are you?
What's next for the Market Mile and Spewak Ventures?
Yeah, so Market Mile, we're really excited for year 3 coming up. So those of you guys that don't know about the Market Mile, it's a 1 mile run/walk in downtown St. Louis with the beautiful Gateway Arch right in the background of our starting line. And it finishes over at the historic St. Louis Union Station, which is 131 years old. And it's a really cool venue where basically they have like a wheel, they have roller coasters now, they have swings and this flying Louis, all this different stuff on their campus. But the Union Station is kind of like this big St. Louis icon. It was a huge space for people kind of coming through with the trains back in the day. When we talk about St. Louis being like one of those top cities back in the day, a lot of people came through Union Station. So they've done an amazing job preserving that area. And so the whole race basically is centered around doing a mile. It's accessible to anyone and everyone. And then have this huge party post-race experience at Union Station. And we benefit 4 beneficiaries that are doing great work in St. Louis. And the way it works is like you, the participant, get to choose which of those beneficiaries you want a portion of your proceeds to benefit. And so much for us is like the event has grown and is in going into year 3, but we really feel like what we're missing the mark on is like we've got the running community out there, but we really want that average, Joe from, Planet Fitness who just loves cardio and doesn't maybe necessarily care as much about running, but just wants to run a mile or walk a mile and then loves the city and wants that free beer at the finish line. That's who we're trying to get to. So this next year, we're going to be making kind of a big marketing push to try to get the everyday person out there because that's really the goal of the event.
Let's go. Maybe we can get the Life in Stride podcast co-hosts out there running.
Hey, if you
racing.
come out, free entries for you guys if you make it out here.
Oh, that'd be awesome. I would love that.
All right, boys. That is episode number 178 of the Life in Stride podcast. Mark Spewak, everyone. Thanks for coming on, dude. I'll see you on the track.
Appreciate you.
Dude, thanks, Mark.
You're the man.
Peace.
Good stuff.
Dude, Mark, that was awesome.